Heaven Official's Blessing. Chapter 143. Audio source: wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Gates open at Mount Tonglu, the assembly of millions of demons. The next day, Xie Lian and Hua Cheng began their journey. Hua Cheng was holding Xie Lian's hand and spoke up. "Gerger, next time you see Dun Wu, don't talk to him, turn around and run away." Xie Lian was puzzled. "Why? I just knew that every time he comes looking for you, it's never for anything good," Hua Cheng said. Xie Lian laughed. "What do you mean? The work he originally assigned me wasn't this." "However," Hua Cheng said, "it's the same thing. Whether if it's going to Mount Tonglu or help him manage the heavens, neither are good assignments. The upper court is in complete shambles now, might as well let it break up. Throwing that pile of mud on your lap, what's up with that? It's no different than choosing between a sword and a knife to commit suicide." Xie Lian couldn't help but laugh, but after laughing, he said soberly, "Still, I didn't think you would volunteer to accompany me to Mount Tonglu. I've been thinking for a while and feel this should still be said. San Lang, absolutely don't force yourself." He kept feeling that Hua Cheng only volunteered to come because he knew what Xie Lian was thinking. After all, Xie Lian really felt like, rather than managing the heavens and do what he wasn't good at, it would be much more gratifying to get locked up in a kiln and kill to his heart's content. However, Hua Cheng said, "Gerger, I've already sworn 3 times I'm not forcing myself. Do you not believe me?" "Of course it's not that," Xie Lian said. Hua Cheng nodded. "Then just relax, Gerger. I know my limits. Don't feel like you owe me anything. Even standing completely in my position, I wouldn't mind stuffing the new Ghost King back before it's born either." Currently, the present Ghost Kings and the heavens all shared mutual benefits on this matter. There was only so much rice and everyone wanted a bite. There was already not enough to go around and there was friction at times, but to add another one to the mix to share the pot, no one was willing. Besides, if this new one had an extreme character, then if they go mad no one would have anything left to eat. After Dun Wu listened to Hua Cheng's suggestion, he considered it seriously. If Xie Lian was to go alone, it certainly wouldn't be as adequate if he went himself. But if it's Xie Lian with a Ghost King who had once trained through Mount Tonglu himself, then this combination would certainly have more odds in their favor. Of course, Hua Cheng wouldn't be going for nothing. Dun Wu agreed to his terms. Until the next time Mount Tonglu reopens, the entire heaven must be tore around the ghost city. Also, the entire court must announce the heroic deeds of Crimson Rain Sought Flower, and sing songs of praises for an entire year. Xie Lian tried to imagine it, and it was probably something to the effect of, "You bunch of foolish heavenly officials. Do you know who saved you?" This was practically like tormenting the heavenly officials who were already wary of Hua Cheng and bore complicated feelings towards him, and stepping on their faces. Hua Cheng smiled. "With me around, this journey will be much easier for you." Pulling himself back, Xie Lian replied, "I still think we should go after your period of aggravation is over, after you've returned to your normal self. You don't need to worry about that either. It'll be soon," Hua Cheng said. Xie Lian was taken aback. "Huh? What is it? Gerger, what's that face?" Hua Cheng questioned. Xie Lian said dejectedly, "Does that mean San Lang's gonna grow up?" Hua Cheng clenched his fists by his sides. I've endured for too long. I can't wait anymore." Yet unexpectedly, just as he finished talking, Xie Lian lifted him up, raising him high into the air with his arms, and laughed. "It'll be such a shame. I won't be able to lift you up anymore after you grow up, so I best hug as much as I can now, ha." On the way to Mount Tonglu, they weren't able to use the distance-shortening array and could only walk. Over 10 days later, the two finally left towns and signs of life far behind them and entered a mountainous area with endless fields of lush green forests. The deeper they entered the woods, the more monsters and demons they saw on the road, the bands of them growing bigger and thicker, their shapes and forms bizarre, sneaking and hurrying. Xie Lian walked with Watching in hand and whispered, "So many have come. The gathering this time certainly is bigger than before. It's because the heavens didn't put up a barricade. So many who weren't planning on coming have all come," Watching said. However, there weren't only lone ghosts, there were many that came in groups. After a while, Xie Lian and Watching ran into a large group of ragged and disheveled demons, their faces savage, marching in a parade chanting, "The world be kiln, the souls be copper, waters deep and fires burn, adversities buried within. The world be kiln, the souls be copper, waters deep and fires burn, adversities buried within." Listening to the tone of their holler, not only did they not sound afraid, they sounded eager. But hearing their slogan, Watching's expression grew frigid. They don't even understand what they're saying, but they definitely shout louder than anybody. Thinking of it, many of these monsters and demons had never experienced this trial before and didn't understand the cruelty of it. Taking the becoming of a supreme something easily achievable, and each of them were filled with heroic determination, bringing displeasure to the one who was experienced. "Can they also come banded in groups?" Xie Lian asked. "Those are typically ones who knew each other already and planned to charge the mountain together, swearing to show mercy for each other. However, none of the promises will keep simply because fighting to the end. The more killed the stronger you get, the more you save the less chance you have to survive, and the easiest target is often ones closest to you." Then, he knitted his brow slightly, covering his right eye, seeming to have another oncoming headache. Xie Lian quickly seized him and hid behind the trees on the side, crouching down, feeling concerned. "San Lang, we're about to enter the mountain. Are you sure you'll be alright?" Easing his brows, Watching replied, "Don't worry, Gerger, everything's fine. It'll be better soon." How could Xie Lian not be worried simply because he said so? Watching then added, "Gerger, come closer, I've something to tell you." Xie Lian didn't know what he was planning, so he drew his face closer. Watching cupped his face with his hands and lightly touched his forehead with his. Xie Lian blinked and was stunned. He waited until Watching released him before he started. "San Lang, what are you?" Watching smiled. "Done. It's all ghosts and demons here. Gerger is a heavenly official. Your scent would be very conspicuous in there. This will help cover it a little." So that was what it was. He was staying Xie Lian with his scent. Xie Lian couldn't help but remember how the two exchanged spiritual powers and air between them, and was afraid Watching would be reminded too, and quickly said, "Alright, let's put on some disguise." In order to blend in with millions of demons, naturally they must go under some disguises. However, it wasn't anything more than draping on a cloak. There were already plenty of demons and monsters who also don masks and cloaks, so it wasn't odd. The two dressed simply, and Xie Lian held Watching's hand as they continued slowly on their way. After a while, there was the faint noise of a commotion on the road. Unsure of what was happening, Xie Lian asked, "Is there anything like a landmark that tells you you've entered Mount Tonglu?" "There is," Watching answered, "but don't trust it." Xie Lian was about to continue his questions, but the commotion of them was growing louder. When the two exited the forest, turns out, there was a large blackened crowd of at least 300 to 400 monsters and demons stuck before a steep bluff. However, this number was but the tip of the iceberg for the turnout of the gathering this time. "Why is the road blocked? Did we go the wrong way? That can't be. Didn't they say any road will lead to Mount Tonglu?" Perhaps it was because they weren't within the boundaries of Mount Tonglu and the slaughtering hadn't officially began. The crowd of demons were still considerably peaceful. Xie Lian found a random ghost on the side and asked casually, "What's going on over there?" That ghost yelled, "Ya ain't got eyes to see fair yourself? There's a mountain in the way, we can't get through." Xie Lian took a look at this ghost next to him. Half of its head were sliced off, and truly, it was the one that didn't have eyes to see. But Xie Lian wasn't going to say anything and only said, "Can't we go around?" Just then, several demons rushed over from the other side, spitting their tongues. The hell, this mountain is evil. We've ran around for over an hour and still saw no end of it. I've had to run over an hour to come back. The ghosts turned to Xie Lian. No. Xie Lian then asked, can't we climb up or fly over? Just as the words left his lips, a large, 7-foot bird whooshed and fell from the sky, crashing heavily onto the ground, and practically dropped dead on the spot. A demon cried out, dead. The bird spirit died from exhaustion and still it couldn't fly over. The ghosts turned to Xie Lian again. No. Xie Lian tried again. Then can't we? But before he could complete his question, the ghosts all shushed him like they really wished to seal his mouth shut. Stop asking, you loudmouth. Alright, Xie Lian complied. Hundreds of ghosts and demons were blocked by this unpassable, unhikeable, uncrossable mountain bluff, and various voices of endless tones buzzed, exceedingly noisy. Some said, I get it. It's not a typical mountain, it's a screen. Some said, everyone, after crossing this mountain, Mount Tonglu must be right beyond. This mountain is probably the first trial before entering the mountain. If we can't even pass a simple test like this, then there's no need to even think about what would come after and might as well just go home. Wait, what? A puzzled voice spoke up. Why do I smell something funny? What smell? You sure it's not that dead human meat you got with you? That voice said. No, it's not the flesh of the dead, it's flesh of the living. No, that's not right either. It's rather like the smell of a heavenly official. The moment those words rolled out, a wave of alarm was raised, and the crowd of demons all cried. What? You're shitting me? Why would there be a heavenly official? Ah, wait. I smell it too. How come we don't smell anything here? Now that y'all are talking about it, it feels like here too. Did a heavenly official sneak in? That's impossible. What heavenly official is so audacious to come to a place like this? With all these voices calling out, alarm exploded in all directions. Xie Lian was feeling a little trepidation, but still his face next gave anything away. Watching had obviously helped him cover up his scent earlier, so why would there be any scent still? No one should have noticed he snuck in. Watching held his hand and whispered, Grr, be careful, something is stirring the pot and creating chaos on purpose. It's also possible that other than me, there are other heavenly officials that have snuck in, Xie Lian said. Just then, the demon that was the first to mention the smell of humans jumped onto a boulder. Everyone, maybe those godforsaken heavenly officials in the heaven realm, saw they couldn't stop us en route, so they sent forth people to come to Mount Tonglu to ruin our celebration. I suggest everyone wearing masks and cloaks or heavy layers to strip them off for now, so whoever has spiritual aura will be immediately discovered. Everyone, announce your title one by one. Don't give them the chance to sneak in among us. The crowd of demons all applauded the idea, and that demon continued. I'll go first. I'm the swift life-extinguishing blade demon, the decapitation blade of an executioner. There's only ever the one blade for killing and chopping off heads. In Xie Lian's experience, typically the more exaggerated the title, with names like Unparalleled, Thousand Hands, Mighty, or Life-Extinguishing, etc., the easier they were to wipe out, usually with just a single move. Sometimes 3 could be wiped out with a single move. Immediately there were hundreds of titles being thrown out noisily, and he shook his head as he listened. Suddenly, a demon next to him elbowed him. Hey, why haven't you stripped off your cloak yet? What are you? It wasn't like he meant it disrespectfully. If he wasn't human, then he could only be called as what, so that didn't seem wrong. In fact, there were plenty of other demons that didn't remove their cloaks and masks. There was even one close to Xie Lian, watching them with his arms crossed. But the one called out first was Xie Lian, and seeing that all the eyes were on him, he accepted his own bad luck and took off the cloak, speaking gently. I'm a puppet master. The demons all approached and circled around. I see. No wonder you look so much like a human. This is my first time seeing a puppet master. Xie Lian smiled without speaking. A puppet master was a demon with a very weak demonic aura. In order to create the perfect puppet, they would experiment on all different kinds of materials, so it wasn't strange to have been stained with different kinds of scent. Since they particularly fancy the skins of humans, the scent of human was usually heavy on their bodies. The dream of puppet masters was to pull out hairs from a heavenly official and make wigs for their puppets, and some were even daring enough to try. Thus, it wasn't strange if there was the scent of heavenly officials either. A demon asked, "Then where's your puppet?" Xie Lian scanned the crowd, then bent down to lift watching up. The demons were all in awe. "Wow, so exquisite. What material did you use?" "Tisk tisk tisk, this looks so real. Feels like you're gonna be a tough competitor." "How is it real?" "I think it looks rather fake. Isn't the skin too white? Why would kids have such long lashes?" Although Watching had his arms crossed and expressionless, but there were still many female ghosts whose unmoving hearts were struck by his looks. "I'm dying. What a handsome puppet. Master, do you take commissions? Can I order one exactly the same? We can talk price." Some even reached out to try and pet, unable to stop themselves. Xie Lian immediately brought him back into his arms and the demons were miffed. "So stingy. Treasuring him so much, you won't even let us touch." Xie Lian's left arm held Watching even tighter, and his right hand brushed his hair. "Of course. This is my puppet. Besides, he's got quite the temper. No one but me can touch him, otherwise he'll get very angry." Watching raised his brows in his arms and the demons all laughed out loud. "Oh, he can even raise brows. He's got attitude." Just then, there was suddenly a voice that spoke up. "I don't think that's it." End chapter.